everybody, it's Drybear. Season 2 is out for the First Descendant, and today I want to walk you through everything you need to know about the Void Vessels, some secrets that you may not have known of, and some tricks that might help you get the loot you're looking for. Void Vessels are the new highest farm mechanic that you're going to be doing for Season 2. You can still actually do the invasions from Season 1 for 5 million gold a day if you like, but you're going to want to be doing the Void Vessels for several reasons. The main things you'll get from Void Vessels right now are going to be the Sheepdog, the new companion fellow loot. That's going to be, if you don't want to buy it, you have to craft it by doing the Void Vessels, and you're also going to be getting the pieces that you need to craft the new Descendant Keelan. On top of that, aside from the crafted pieces for the Sheepdog and for Keelan, you also need the materials for those from the Void Vessels as well. The general loop for these is that you will just go through the process of doing the Void Vessel, get to the final boss, and if you defeat the final boss within the time limit, you will get encryption keys and loot from the final box. You will get the box loot for your Keelan and dog pieces from the box at the end, and you will also get the encryption keys to open loot chests in the next Void Vessel to get the materials that you need to craft it. If you're fresh logging in, you will have to go in and go to the HQ to get the purple quest to start the Season 2 quest line. You won't be able to do Void Vessels without doing that first. You'll be able to come here, finish the quest line, and then you will see this module right here appear, and you will be able to activate the Void Vessel Hard and the Void Vessel Normal. This has an MR requirement of, I think, 8 for normal, and then I think 15 or 16 for hard, and as long as you're in hard mode, you should be able to do the hard version. This obviously gives you more. The first thing I'll note before we jump into the Void Vessel mechanics in general is that before you can do Void Vessels normally, and also whether you can do Void Vessels in groups, you will have to do the 3 solo-only quests for the Void Vessels, and these are actually kind of tedious in a lot of ways. So what you'll do is you'll follow the quest line, it'll have you go to a Void Vessel, you'll see the Keelan cinematic, and then you'll have to do the Void Vessel, and then they'll make you do it about 3 more times in order to collect records. The first time, the second time, and the third time will have different records, and there's been lots of reports of people like not finding the records, like they're just invisible or they're not showing up, and you have to find a lot of them as well. So I would recommend just following, when you're on those record ones, just follow the green dots on your screen as accurately as you can. If there's nothing left, you're gonna have to run the same Void Vessel again. There will be an option with Seneca to just go back to the Void Vessel and complete it, and you can check your quest at any time to see how many of the records you've gotten. But this is the most tedious part. It does seem to be kind of buggy where you just don't get the records you need, and you'll want to just go through that and get it done. But once you finish the third version of that and you get all the records quests done, you can then do public matchmaking for the Void Vessels if you like. You can do solo, you can do groups, it doesn't matter. You're open to do any of the Void Vessels. You just have to get through that first part. Now, if you're able to, I would recommend always doing hard. You're just going to get more resources from it. You will get crafting materials for the crystallization catalyst, which makes life really easy and stuff like that. And again, you will get the decryption keys at the end that you use to open the vaults. Now, at the making of this video, there are 2 different types of chests that you can get, and it seems to be completely random which one you get at the end. So you'll run the whole Void Vessel, get to the end, finish the boss, and you will get either a choice of 4 different Keelan chests or 4 different of the fellow chests. These will have the crafted materials that you need, the blueprints that you need to either make the fellow or make Keelan with Anna East of the research department. The difference between these chests is the distribution of the drop chances. You'll notice that the lower ones have higher drop chance to the lower end, like the lower items like gold, resource box, that sort of thing. And then the higher ones will have a higher drop chance for the blueprints specifically. And so you'll be able to choose between these depending on which distribution you want. I think in general, the top 2 are always going to be the best if you're just looking for the blueprints, but once you already have those characters, maybe you will always want to take the bottom ones, so you can always get gold and resource boxes and things like that, as it, you know, for repeat offenders. For the difference on which ones you get, let's walk through the Void Vessel experience, everything you need to know about that, and how you'll actually unlock these, because the final boss fight is a time attack, a boss fight. You have a certain amount of time to complete it, and then if you complete it fast enough with over 2 minutes remaining on the timer, over 1 minute 20 seconds, 40 seconds, or just completing it on time in general, you'll have a choice of all of these rewards here. If the timer runs out on the final boss fight, you will lose. It will end, you won't get anything at all. So you have to kill the boss before the timer ends. Depending on how fast you do it, you might get more or less rewards. Now, the Void Vessel is the same base map for all variants. However, there are different paths that will open up. You'll notice that sometimes certain doors are closed and certain other ones are open, and it's just random which one you get. So you just have random variety in which one you get. But overall, it is the same map with the same sequence of main rooms, different connecting rooms overall. You'll notice on the right side of the screen, there is a score counter for increasing the amount of time you have for the final boss. So the base boss encounter at the end has a flat amount of time maximum. You will find these blocked Vulgus comms beacons as you go through the Void Vessel. When you unlock them, you will add more time to the final boss fight, which makes it more likely that you'll complete it and more likely that you'll have more time left over at the end as well to get better rewards. As you're going through the Void Vessel, there will be active and inactive comms beacons. If they are active, they will have these red beams coming out of them, and then this relay icon will appear when you get near to them. You will find ones that are inactive. There's nothing you can do with them. You just walk away. They have no purpose, but sometimes they're active. If they are active, walk up to them, disable them, and you will get added time to the final boss. But some of them are inactive. They're not glowing. They're not opened. They're not lit up, and they don't have any purpose, so you just walk right past them. I wish they would have just got rid of them if they weren't active at all, but there are some that are active, some that aren't. Next, you will find tons of different kinds of chests throughout the Void Vessel. Some of them are broken, which means they're already open and you can just go up to them and open and get their materials. There are genetic versions of them, special versions of them, and there's also the experimental versions of the chests, and they all contain different materials you might need for upgrading your sheepdog or crafting Keelan or crafting the sheepdog as well. So as you go through these, you will find these. The ones that are broken, you can just open, but if they're not broken, you will need the encryption key that you get from the final boss. So if you walk up to these and say you don't have a decryption key, you just have to walk past them, go to the end, complete the boss, and then in the next Void Vessel, you can come up to these and open them using the encryption keys you got from the previous Void Vessel. The next thing you want to know about is the Void Shields inside of the Void Vessels. So in this, there are two different types of Void Shields. You will see these enemies that glow with these little marble bubbles around them, and there will be two different colors. There's like a yellowish, kind of beige-ish color, and there's a blue color. Those two are different Void Shields. The yellowish color is only damageable by weapons, so you need to actually hit it with a weapon of some kind, like shoot it with a firearm in order to destroy the shield. There is one enemy that is sourcing the shield for nearby enemies. If you shoot that enemy and destroy it, you will be able to break the shield for all nearby targets, but while that shield is up, they won't take any damage from skills in general. Next is the blue version of the shield, which looks the same, but just has the blue aesthetic to it. And this is the opposite. It can only be damaged by skills, and you have to break it first if you want to do normal firearm damage. The one exception to this is the Battle Pass weapon, the Voltia beam rifle, does both skill damage and firearm damage as it pertains to Void Shields. So if you're holding the Voltia and shooting it, it will damage the blue shields, it will damage the yellow shields, it'll destroy them both. It is a one-size-fits-all solution for these shields. So you can shoot the blue shields with the Voltia, but in general, you have to do skill damage to break the blue shields and then firearm damage to break the yellow. A quick note is you will find skill Void Shields for locked loot chests that have chests in them. This is the same as the bubble shield. You see the blue on it. You can either shoot it with the Voltia or you can destroy it with a skill, and this will open up loot chest areas. And again, keep in mind that the name of the chest tells you what's inside of it. The experimental ones are where you want for the sheepdog. Genetic is going to be for Keelan, and then these special ones just kind of have a mix of things in them that might be useful for various things, or duplicates of the other ones that have loot in them as well. And on that note, I would just be mindful of if you're trying to target farm like Keelan or the Fellow, you want to be careful about which ones you open and what you use your encryption keys on, as it will change the outcome and give you different loot. Next, let's talk about the final boss fight, and this will be something that you'll get used to dealing with. It has a mix of lots of AoE, a ton of skill damage you have to do to the special shields that pop up, and then some special mechanics you need to be aware of as well. So the final Void Commander has three main phases that you have to work through, and you kind of want to build for dealing with this. Either you have a maxed out Voltia, like you see here, that will be doing good damage to the Void Shields or to anything else as a weapon, or you can have a character build that has enough skill damage to burn through the shields, but you will need a way to deal with the blue Void Shields in this final fight. The first phase starts out with minions spawning everywhere, and then they'll spawn with the Void Shields, and then the commander will spawn. In phase 1, he will have his shield out in front of him, which makes it kind of annoying to use firearms. So there's a couple ways to deal with this. Either you just use skill damage to go behind his shield and deal damage to him that way to end his first phase, or you can cause him to do a couple things. You can either just shoot at his feet or shoot at his head to do direct damage to him. You can shoot the center of the shield, though at least at the making this video, it doesn't do damage to him, which makes it a lot slower to deal with him. You can also do what I'm doing here, where you jump to the side when he does an animation and do damage to him directly, or you can walk up in melee range. So if they see how I walked up in melee range, it causes him to do a melee slam with the shield. That opens him up for damage. So you just walk up, nut tap him a little bit, cause him to do the slam, back up, shoot him, nut tap him, and do that over and over until he exits his first phase, if you're someone who relies a lot on firearms instead of skills. Once that ends, he will enter into phase 2. The first part of phase 2, he will expand his shield out, kind of like Kyle, and there will be a weak point in the middle. This is best used with firearms, so you want to switch to firearms and burn that single middle piece. It doesn't have a crazy amount of HP if you have a fully built weapon. You just have to kind of deal with the mobs around you and just blow through that center piece. Once that gets destroyed, he'll start the next part of phase 2, where he will get a skill shield around him and the room will start blowing up. Then he'll run over to these generators and activate one. When the generator gets activated, it will also get a skill shield, one of the arcade shields, around it, and then start pulsing these big blue shock rings. It will continually pulse the big blue shock rings until you destroy the skill shield on the generator, at which point it will stop. Then he'll repeatedly do this jump leap attack that does a bunch of damage and cause these big AoE fire explosions all around. So you're just trying to kind of eat the damage, stay alive, burn through his HP, and if you don't burn through his HP in time in phase 2, he will generate a brand new skill shield and then start working on the generators again. So it's good to just kind of keep the tempo on him and burn him down before he ends up creating more problems for you and burning lots of your time. Then the final phase starts with phase 3. It will begin with a whole bunch of mobs that all have skill shields around them. Once you finish those off, the room will go dark and he'll go into his final form, which he'll bring out his artillery, his chain guns. He'll start spawning generators with the skill shields on them, and then he'll do 2 main attacks that you want to be aware of. He'll launch mortars towards you when he shoots up in the air, or he'll kneel down and bring out his cannons and start shooting like howitzer blasts or chain gun blasts at you. You just have to work through that. Make sure you destroy the generator to prevent the AoEs, or just stay at a distance that avoids it in the first place. You'll get your chest, you'll get your encryption keys, and you're good to start over again. And that's the gist for Void Vessels. Kind of reiterating some of the tips here is just be mindful of which chests you're opening, because they have different loot inside of them. Make sure you get as many of the void comms, the comms beacons that you can, to add time to the final boss. Be willing to explore side areas. There's a lot of extra side areas, different vents you can explore, little rooms that have chests in them or beacons in them that you can deal with. And it is worthwhile, I would say, to build out a Voltia for this, because it just gives you a nice little backup for some areas and can also deal with some really tricky situations where your skill is on cooldown and you need to do a skill damage. You can just whip out your Voltia and burn down a shield, which makes it a lot easier to get through the Void Vessel in general. And that's what I got. If you got tips and tricks for the Void Vessels, drop them those in the comments down below for other people who might be looking for them. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.